Welcome to the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur. My name is Rita Perez. Hello. I've been a travel advisor for over 10 years and am navigating this winding road of entrepreneurship with you. I created this podcast because I wanted to share all the things I've learned from leaders both in and out of our industry that I really wish I would have known way back then. But alas, the important thing is I'm aware of them now, and I want you to be too. Ready for this week's show? Let's jump in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. We have a super fabulous guest with us. Her name is Nermine Zakhary. She helps people figure out who they are so they can own it, articulate it, and then go out and do it on purpose. The key is focusing on strengths building instead of weakness fixing. Her work is centered around the Clifton Strengths Assessment as a certified coach. She coaches one-on-one and facilitates workshops on how to strategically apply strengths in ways to accelerate performance, energy, relationships, and results. Welcome, Nermine.
Thank you so much, Rita. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here today too, because as we were talking about, this past year has been quite a whirlwind, especially for other travel entrepreneurs. And I am personally finding myself that I need to focus on the things that I'm really great at, but it's also difficult for someone like myself who is not making income just yet to be able to kind of let the ropes on things that I would love to loosen the ropes on. So I thought that you would have a lot of really great information on harnessing our strengths, being an expert in that field. So kind of what drew you to Clifton Strengths?
Oh my goodness. How much time do you have? So Rita, I fell in love with Clifton Strengths when I attended a workshop coming on 9 years ago now, where I learned, here's what happened. I was invited to this workshop called Discover Your Strengths. And of course, it sounded interesting. I was at the time hemming and hawing, wondering was I looking for a different job? Am I going to start interviewing? They always ask you the strengths and weaknesses question. I don't know how to answer. Okay, so this is probably good timing for me to attend something like this. So the process was you bought the book, Strengths Finder 2.0, did the assessment, and brought your results with you to this workshop. Well, I did the assessment and I took a look at my results and I didn't like them. I didn't like them. It's kind of funny to hear a strengths coach say out loud to you. Yeah. I didn't like my strengths, but I really had a visceral reaction. I looked at them and I said, these aren't my strengths. This thing is flawed. This is probably another silly personality test. That's what I just bought into. And the reason I said that is my top two strengths were empathy and adaptability. Okay. And and people look at me like they the eyebrows go up and say, those sound like amazing strengths to have. Like why didn't you like them? and they'll laugh at me. But I'll start with adaptability. I can be so flexible to the point where I can't make a decision, I'm not serving anybody. And I saw this as something that actually really brought me a lot of pain. It was a source of anxiety in my life when I can't make a decision. Okay. So how is this a strength? And then empathy, I will ruminate for days about conversations I've had with folks. I think I said too much, or I didn't say enough. I didn't say the thing they needed to hear, or I might have, what if I offended them? Like literally this will go on for days with me. So this was another source of anxiety and pain in my life. Okay. When I saw those two words on this piece of paper that is supposed to, be my strengths,
Mm-hmm.
I really thought this was, like I said, just another silly personality test. Then I attended the workshop, and we watched some videos. Of course, there was a wonderful presentation. And when the facilitator had us do this exercise, she asked us to think back over the last couple of weeks and to write down the things that we looked forward to, the things we enjoyed doing, and that made us feel strong. And I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit better, but feeling a little bit more positive. Well, then I had to share those activities with the gentleman sitting next to me. And of course, he had the list of my top 5 strengths.
Okay.
And as I was sharing, he was pointing at my strengths. So I would share, I don't know how much I enjoyed one-on-one meetings with my manager. And he said, "Oh, that was relator. That was, look, you were using that strength." I'd share another experience. Nermine, you were using that strength, and I'm looking like, what's going on here? What's going on here? And I'm realizing that, wow, when I use them, I'm happy. When I use them, I'm doing something useful.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't know. I don't know what words really came to me. I just knew something really positive was happening. And it occurred to me in that moment. I really experienced a paradigm shift in those few moments when I realized that I had spent the bulk of my adult life focused on trying to meet someone else's expectations and never quite meeting them.
Yeah.
Or comparing myself to other people. Why can't I be like so and so, or why can't I do what she does? And never feeling good enough. And in that moment, it was so freeing.
Yeah.
To feel like it was okay to just be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a really big deal. And I fell in love with it.
No, you say that, and the thing that comes to mind, so I have been very big into astrology since I was a kid, and I recently this year got back into astrology and kind of like focusing more on business side. And so I have a Libra moon. I did not know what that was. But I have a Libra moon, which means that I get nurtured by relationships with other people. And I didn't know that. And it's funny that like January, February is when I found that out, because we had started networking, like our different networking processes together and with other people before that. And I was just finding how much like I also thrived in that and getting to know other people and trying to help other people out. But for so long, I fought networking. I fought tooth and nail networking.
Wow.
And when I learned that about the Libra moon, I was like, I've been fighting myself and one of my strengths this whole time, which I'm so fascinated by this with using our strengths, because especially, as solopreneurs, we want to do it all. But I think especially coming out of COVID, there's like the big realization that we can't, one, and two, we shouldn't, because other people are really great at other things that can help us out.
Yeah. Marcus Buckingham was one of the thought leaders behind the strengths movement and involved in the research and developing the assessment. Will often say, find other people are strengthened by your areas of weakness.
Yeah.
And vice versa, right? You find someone who is strengthened by that activity, and there are people around you. And what's interesting is when we put, and you and I are learning this in our networking together, aren't we? That when we put our requests out there, when we ask, we eventually get to a place where we get those needs met, and we find people who love doing the things that we don't enjoy doing, or that weaken us in the process. So
exactly, because there's So I love doing this part of podcasting, doing the interviews. I do not like the editing part. So that is one of the things. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just, I don't have the time, and that's not the best use of my time. So that is like one thing I'm like, I cannot wait for the day that I can hire someone to do all the editing. Now, you said that there are 34 strengths, which I was like, whoa. And then within those 34 strengths, there's kind of like 4 subgroups, which I'm thinking, if I was going to form a team, I want somebody from each of those 4 subgroups. Can you just kind of go into that? And if I'm kind of like going in the right direction with that thinking?
Yeah. So certainly, so they're called 4 leadership domains.
Okay.
So I'm going to take a step back though and say 34 strengths. Half of them are task oriented.
Okay.
And you have 2 ends of the spectrum, which give you 2 of the domains. You have strategic thinkers who are big thinkers that like the high level why and what. They're the visionaries for the team. They create the vision. On the other end of the spectrum, on the task side, are people who executing strengths. So they take that vision, right, and they make it happen. They're the ones that make things happen. Now, the other half of the strengths are relationship oriented. And again, there are 2 ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
You have influencers who take the team's ideas and sell them both inside and outside the organization. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have relationship builders.
Okay.
And they are the glue that hold the team together. Okay. So there are your 4 domains: strategic thinking, executing, influencing, and relationship building. And yes, as you can imagine, it would be amazing to have a full, that spectrum of all those strengths, the strengths in those 4 domains represented on your team. Someone who has strategy, someone who gets stuff done, someone who is out there campaigning for you, and then someone who just keeps everyone connected together. So yes, in a perfect world, you would want as much of that mix as possible. But we learn to work with what we have.
Yes.
The whole point of the reason the authors wrote the strengths-based leadership and defined these domains is to, that we lead from the best of who we are. And they showed you how anyone can lead from strategic thinking, from executing, influencing, relationship building, and what they did in order to build their teams, to surround themselves with people who could do things that weaken them, or making sure that that they have different strengths around them. But it's really we work with what we have, and if when we identify a gap, we go, we search it out.
Yeah.
I find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I want to dive in just a little bit on 1 or 2 of the strengths. And I know we specifically were talking about achiever, which I haven't taken a test, just 411 for everybody.
Okay.
I don't think I'm an achiever. And then the other one that you had brought up was learner. And I was like, I think I could be a learner. So can you describe at their highest power or self what an achiever is really great at, and kind of like red flags or things that you should be aware of that they can get themselves stuck in, but they're able to kind of like curve them around?
Yeah. So I pulled up some of my notes.
Yeah.
So that to recall here some, just so I can share quickly with you. So achievers, their strengths are in their hard driving, persistent behaviors. They're finishers. They love completion, and they work hard to accomplish whatever it is that they set out to do. and they're energized by their goals
Mm-hmm.
and their task lists, and they find value in including even in their relationship commitments. They're goal driven and want to make sure that things are happening the way they're supposed to happen, and so on. So they, again, goal driven, hardworking, persistent. Now, what are some things that could trip up someone who is an achiever? If there are any unclear or missing goals, they don't know what the goal is, they're going to be really, really out of sorts. If there is inaction, like nothing's happening, no, this doesn't work for an achiever. And if they find that themselves falling short of accomplishing something,
okay,
it doesn't sit well with them.
mm-hmm.
Achievers will get triggered by perhaps expectations of other people. So, for example, if there's too much talk and not enough action, okay. Or if there are persistent interruptions when they're in the middle of something and they just keep getting phone calls or interrupted emails. Also, if someone else is kind of lazy about mm-hmm. the work, they're all about, let's get it done, right? So, but it can lead to, when they overuse this strength, it can lead to being a workaholic. Mm-hmm. It can lead to unhealthy behaviors. It can hurt relationships. Mm-hmm. It could deteriorate their health. They might have some attitudes around, the ends justify the means. They do absolutely whatever it takes to get something done, and that hurts them in the process, mm-hmm. the overall project, in the long term. If they may be overcommitted to something and they don't leave room for other things that are important. Mm-hmm. When work becomes more important than people, those are things that get in the way, and they're hurtful, and not an effective use of a strength.
Right. Because that you started listing things off, and I was like, maybe I'm a semi-achiever, because that whole checking off the to-do list, that is. The Strategic Travel Entrepreneur is brought to you by Mailbox Power. Harness the power to attract and nurture your clients through something many entrepreneurs have forgotten about, the mailbox. Create beautiful custom campaigns and automate annual mailings for birthdays and holidays. And with a pro account, get access to mailboxes not currently on your mailing list that are just waiting for the travel service you offer. Visit my Mailbox Power affiliate link in the show notes to get started today and support this podcast. Totally me. And then where I was thinking that I wasn't so much of an achiever was in the area of not wanting work-life balance. And I was like, oh no, I want work-life balance. And I've kind of learned not to work myself to the bone. Have I overcommitted myself this week? Yes, but it's not all the time. And I've learned to kind of listen in on physical cues, okay, you're not going to work on anything tonight. You're just going to lay on the couch and watch TV because you need to rest so you don't burn out.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of rhetoric around work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing something you love and it doesn't feel like work, then wonderful. But there's also making sure there's room for staying healthy, and mm-hmm. Whether it's exercise, time in relationship. So that's really where it's striking. I think it's striking the right balance
Right.
So that you have healthy, you physically you're healthy, emotionally you are healthy. And, when we're energized by our work, we feel fulfilled. I mean, that's a huge boost as well. It's just all in the right balance.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. Cause I can see, I would definitely want an achiever on my team. But I feel, saying that though, I also feel like there might be, as a leader of the team, that you have to be cognizant of other people's strengths to also know kind of where they fall back. And if I was to have an achiever on the team, I'm thinking they're not going to be focused on the work-life balance. So I, as their leader, have to make sure that they take breaks, they take their time off. Is that something that is discussed, like doing a strengths session, a strengths finder session?
Yeah, it starts. So for the first thing we need to do is, like, the first step is really understanding our own strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Getting clear. The company that I certified with, originally they were called Strength Strategy. Now they've rebranded to People Acuity. And I love this because so acuity is the ability to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts by self acuity.
Yeah.
I need to see me. I need to understand who I am,
Mm-hmm.
how I show up, what triggers me,
Mm-hmm.
internally, externally, where my overuse patterns are, and where I find fulfillment, where I am in my optimal zone.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get a real sense of who I am. Then the next step is others acuity.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to understand the strengths of the people around me and what contributions they make,
Mm-hmm.
what they need in order to make those contributions, what some of those potential overuse patterns might be,
Mm-hmm.
so I can support them. And I love that you said that, because that shows extreme care, for team members.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an understanding boss who gets gets their people,
Mm-hmm.
and wants to create the best environment for them to thrive and really produce their best work, and also to love their work, right? At the end of the day, to say, like, this was an amazing day. Look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me so, now I've got like the stupid smile because that's a lot of what I do in my cruise business, is that I want people to feel worthy and loved in the work that they do, and that they're performing to their highest. And you can really only do that if you have somebody looking out for you, if you're a team member. And if you are the solopreneur, that person is you. So you need to have these types of tools in your toolbox in order to realize this and figure this out. And I would even say, like, kind of like flip reversals with the team too, to let them know that, yes, I'm an achiever, so I might be going crazy and wanting you to do all this, so keep me in check if I go a little haywire.
It opens up the door for really meaningful, purposeful conversation as a team.
Mm-hmm.
To talk about, look, this is where I get excited. This is where I have the highest energy, highest performance.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, this is what I need in order to stay there.
Yeah.
And just having that open dialogue, it just creates a different atmosphere, Rita.
Yes.
And it, when there's that openness, and when a manager invites that conversation, just what a blessing to be in that kind of environment.
Right. Because you feel like you're not an employee in some way, that you're more important. You're not a number on the payroll collecting a paycheck, that your voice is valuable and that your contributions are going towards a greater good and not just to make boss A more money.
Right. I think at the heart of it, we all want to feel seen. Mm-hmm. And when you're, when your manager, your boss sees you and sees the value you bring and cares enough to create an environment for you to show up mm-hmm. as the best of you, then I don't know, it sounds like that's the most amazing place.
Right. Now, I was just thinking, is this something, I mean, not that I would tell, hey, you client, I need you to fill out this strengths test because I want to see where your strengths are. But is that something that you do in some of your trainings, that you teach people how they can pick up on certain things that maybe you can tell that maybe you might have a client that is an achiever, so you might have to direct them in certain patterns that you may not direct another person with a different strength?
Yeah. I love that question. There's definitely opportunities to learn all of that. There's in one of my coaching packages, we have a dedicated session mm-hmm. to really learning about, we study the 4 domains.
Okay.
And strengths in each of the domains. So we look for clues.
Okay.
What would I notice about an achiever? What would I notice about a learner? What would I notice about an activator? And so on. And then we also talk about what they need in order to show up. So there's a dedicated session in one of my coaching packages. There's also there's a full day workshop that when we're back in person again, Rita.
I know. I want to take one of the workshops.
When we're back in person again, we will. There's a whole. We spend an afternoon. So the morning is all about self acuity, mm-hmm. and the afternoon is about others' acuity. And there's a whole session dedicated to picking up on those clues. Mm-hmm. It's experiential, and we split up in the room according to our primary domain, and mm-hmm. we learn from each other, and we listen. Yeah. Like, where do you love to contribute? What do you need? Where are you sometimes misunderstood? What do you wish people knew about you?
Yeah.
And so we have those conversations, and it's tactical. Like it's an experience. I can't wait to be back in person again and having these conversations.
Yes. Now, I know you said in June you were going to be starting up the Ignite program. So can you tell us a little bit more about that program?
Yeah, I am so excited. This is a group coaching program. We will be running, it's 5+1 sessions. Okay. So I'll be running it the 5 Wednesdays in the month of June, Wednesday evenings. And let me see, these are all the things that it includes. First, you get a book called Ignite. And the whole purpose of our time together in these 5 weeks, and that is to talk about and explore 3 simple steps, mm-hmm. re-spark your buried dreams. And then we're going to build a plan that finally works. Build a plan that finally works, all with a little help from your strengths. So I combine the amazing content in this book, Ignite by Mitch Matthews, mm-hmm. and a couple different strengths assessments. So we start with Clifton strengths, but there's other strengths assessments that there's different levels of information.
Okay.
That we can learn about ourselves. So I include 2 other assessments as well. We have on the Wednesday evenings, it's 90-minute group session, where we do a little reflection together, what are we learning? What are your dreams? What are you planning to do? How can your strengths help you? On occasion, we might do some hot seat coaching or hug seat coaching. I've heard it called as well. And each person enrolled also gets a one-on-one coaching session with me, because I want you to come in. I want you to know enough about your strengths, so we can have I want you to know enough about them so you can, as you're dreaming again, or unburying those dreams, you can start to see how your strengths can serve you.
Oh, nice.
And let's see what else. I say 5+1 because we're going to have those 5 sessions in June. And then there'll be another date later in probably sometime in July to regroup and check in with each other to how you doing with your action items, with the things that you committed to doing.
Nice.
So we start dreaming, we act on our dreams, and we sustain our dreams. So basically stepping into the summer of 2021 on fire.
It's gonna be a fierce one.
Yeah.
So when are you starting to take registrations for that?
I am my registration will open I think early next week.
Okay.
And I would invite folks to email me.
Okay.
That is the easiest way, and we'll set up a 15-minute chat. I'll tell them a little bit more about the program, and we'll and just, is this a good fit? Is this a good fit for them?
Exactly.
It's not. I don't want people to feel like they just to register. Let's have a conversation, and and then for you to decide whether if this is a good fit for you.
Right. Yeah. Because the worst thing would be is that you're trying to figure out your strengths, but this is not the right method of doing so, even though I'm totally psyched out for it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Nermine.
Thank you for having me, Rita. I always love hanging out with you.
Yes, likewise. It's been a while. I'll go ahead and I'll make sure I have your email address in the bottom, so anybody who's interested in doing Ignite this summer can join you. So thank you, everybody, for listening in, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining me on The Strategic Travel Entrepreneur. Please subscribe and leave a show rating on your favorite podcast platform. Oh, and don't forget to take a look at the show notes for important information and links. See you next week.